Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Think Global podcast. I am your host, International Seth, and today's date is April 10th, 2021. We're going to make a slight pivot today, and we're going to talk back about more about international education and teaching abroad. And I have a special guest coming on the show with me today, Miss Tahira Muhammad. Tahira, are you with me?
Yes.
Hi. Welcome to the Think Global podcast.
Thank you.
Well, it's good for you to have come on the show, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Right away, we're gonna have this segment on our show where it's called the World Call, and that's when we give our guests 10 seconds to name off some of the countries that they visited. So right now, you're gonna have 10 seconds as we put you on the World Call. Go.
Okay. Gambia, Ethiopia, Uganda, Egypt. I lived in Kuwait. I lived in UAE. I lived in Saudi Arabia, and what else?
That's fine. That's about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because you named a lot of African countries and then a few of in the Middle East. So you're in the UAE right now, and I understand it because I've been living in the Middle East for a long time as well. But the UAE has 7 provinces, right? And
Yes.
you are in the province of Dubai. Now, Dubai is
Right.
very famous because a lot of celebrities have been going there for vacation,
hmm
and it's become a really popular international tourist destination. How is living in Dubai, and what does life have to offer in Dubai?
Well, it's to me, it reminds me a lot of a high, really class New York. It's a combination of high, like big buildings. Then you have the desert. You have there's parts of Dubai that look completely different than each other. To me, it has the best of the East and the West. There's a lot of things you can do here as an American. And there are some rules you have to follow to make it, they make it a bit strict so the city stays clean, safe, which I appreciate. To me, the cost of living is similar to New York, but then as a teacher, you get benefits as far as like living, housing and things like that. I've been able to save some money here. Dubai is how you live in Dubai according to how you want to live. Some people try to live beyond their means and end up in financial debt. I try not to live beyond my means, and I enjoy my life just fine.
Cool. When I think of Dubai, I think of the big hotels and all the
Yeah,
shopping malls and luxury and stuff like that. How long have you been living there for?
off and on 5 years.
Okay, so 5 years, so it's a significant period of time. Have you lived in any other of the UAE provinces or only in Dubai?
Sharjah. I lived
Okay,
in Sharjah when I first came here, which is next door to Dubai.
yeah,
I
but it's
visited Abu Dhabi and I visited Ras Al Khaimah and I visited Al Ain and I visited Fujairah. But I like Dubai because of the convenience, and it just reminds me of New York because I'm from New York. So it's easy for me to navigate and there's a lot to do. And I love the cultural arts. And what I like about Dubai is that it's like you can have a good time as an expat. You kind of feel like you're in a Western country in a sense, but then you still feel like you're in a Muslim country where you don't like see people openly drinking alcohol on the street. You don't see nudity. They try to keep the city like more family oriented, where it's more catered to family and children more than just adults and nightclubs and stuff. If they do have nightclubs, they're in the hotels. They're not like on the street. So like they're up and hidden like in lounges and stuff. And that's where like adults can have a good time and it's not visible to, things that are inappropriate to children.
okay. Yeah,
So
yeah. Sounds like it has a good balance of family life, but still you have your access to entertainment and all that jazz. So that's what's up.
mhm.
That's what's up. So you're over there teaching at the moment. What is your current
Yeah.
role at the school that you're teaching in?
Right now I teach at a 12th grade, mostly 12th grade students, English, and I also teach media. So basically the school I teach at is School of Research Science. They were a British school, then they opened an American section. So most of my managers are African Americans, and I like my principal, I like my management team. It's been a challenging year because of the COVID. A lot of the things what we would like to normally do with the students, we can't because of COVID. And it's made things a lot more intense and more stressful because on normal circumstances, students will be face to face and we can easily control them better when they're face to face as far as like them being, more attentive. But for the most part, I feel like our students, most of them did, pretty much did pretty well. and, you know, rolled with the challenges, and I'm kind of proud of them. But yeah, it's a highly technological school, which made it more easier because they have like flat screened, what do you call whiteboard, not whiteboard, but more like flat screen, sort of like whiteboard. It's a screen TV that functions as a whiteboard. They give us all iPads. And actually, I enjoy that because I don't have to carry as many books. We're not wasting paper, which I like, because one thing that I didn't like is every school year I'm throwing out tons of paper. So this school year, we're not having a whole bunch of paper piled up. Everything's digital, everything's online. I pretty much carry all my stuff on an iPad and an app, and it's made my technology level base and knowledge go up. So I like that. And that's one thing I like about Dubai too, because the Sheikh, he's very serious about education. He's a literary artist himself. He's written a lot of books. He's done plays. And he's also trying to expand more visa opportunities for expats to come and more who are more into the creative arts. So there's a big move for them to do that. And since COVID, he's made a lot of different options for people to come here. Like before, you have to have a degree in something to stay here, but now he's making it to where you can either do a freelance visa, where you can sponsor yourself if you can prove that you have a profession or something you can do as a freelancer, or you can also do remote work, where if you have a job in your country from abroad making 5,000 US dollars a month, you can live and work in Dubai. So there's more options coming available for people to live here than it was before. So, and the reason why I like Dubai too, because it's so safe. And like every time you go somewhere, they put a lot of effort into making sure that places are clean. I hadn't had any issues with COVID. Like I hadn't felt like afraid to go out or socialize because they make sure everything is so sanitized. Like the restaurants, they, you know, Dubai don't play. Even if it's like a famous restaurant, like a food chain, they'll shut it down if they go over COVID regulations, even just one day. So I felt really, you know, so I don't like, I've been to the opera since I've been here. I've done almost everything except go to the movies. That's because there's no movies I like to see that's out, and everything's on Netflix anyway. But this last night I treated a friend of mine for her birthday on a dinner cruise. And it was, you know, I didn't really feel like, you know, that I was at risk for COVID or anything like that.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned about your administration has been predominantly African American, and that's probably a good, you know, because you're overseas as an expat, and you guys already have, you know, a pretty much common understanding for where you come from your origin country. But what about the students? You're at an international school, so you know, I've worked.
They're mostly Emiratis.
Yeah, okay.
And I actually like working more with the locals because I'm Muslim and I was born Muslim, and I can relate to them more. And I work at an Islamic school. I work at an Islamic school. So what I like about that is I can always put Islam back in the lessons, and it actually makes my students more interested in the learning. I'm the only Muslim English teacher so far. Most of my coworkers are not Muslim. So at least what I try to do is I like no matter, like if I'm trying to teach a literature lesson and I see there's some Islamic concept that I can relate it to, that helps the students understand it more. I've done that a lot with Shakespeare. I've done that when we talked about literature like Rosa Parks and things from the African American civil rights movement. And I relate it back to the Arab, you know, some of the discrimination Arabs faced after 9/11. So I try to like get my students to connect with the struggle of African American Muslims so they can see that we have some of the same issues when it comes to white supremacy and racism. And I posed a lot of interesting questions online for my students to have online forum discussions. And I was really like surprised at some of the answers, that they're very observant when it comes to a lot of things.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So how long have you been teaching?
In Dubai or altogether?
Overseas, your international teaching career experience, because you were in
about
Kuwait
10 years.
Okay, so 10
I've taught
years.
in Kuwait, I've taught in Saudi briefly, and I taught in Ghana the last 2 years.
Okay. So
and then I came back to the UAE.
What kind of challenges have you faced as an international educator with culture or the students, or
working with administration that has a authoritarian management style? That is something I really wish they would examine, because it causes a lot of teacher turnover. Most of us coming from the West are not used to micromanagement. We're used to our supervisors trusting us that when you're going to do something, that will do it. And that's a big challenge. And I know like it comes from a cultural concept of some cultures feel like seeking like input from the people under them is a weakness in their leadership. But that I feel like there needs to be some training and cross-cultural understanding and managerial style, like to transition from authoritarian to more 21st century leadership.
Mhm.
But I think they're a bit way off from that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like even though I have mostly a line management that are Westerners, they get micromanaged, and then in turn we get micromanaged, and it can be very frustrating. And especially as when you know you've been in the profession for so long, you know what you're doing, you know your students, and it's like you just wish you know that at least you can just be able to go to work, enjoy what you're doing without having to be like watched all the time. It can be very like demotivating.
Okay, well, yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for your insight in that. And so let's try to pivot a little bit because you had mentioned that you had lived in Ghana as well in West Africa for some time. Do you want to touch about how that experience was? Because you know, not a lot of people have been able to do that, pull that one off. So how was
Well,
your
my
time
son,
in Ghana?
my son is half Ghanaian, and I was actually there to try to start settling there, but I was very disappointed because the government hasn't done anything to improve the conditions for the people, but yet they're asking African Americans to come and help build Ghana, but they haven't set up anything for us to do that. They haven't, you know, they haven't curtailed all the layers of corruption that you have to go through to do that. And there was a lot of challenges I faced when I went into this past 2 years, even before COVID, because things have gotten so much more expensive. And even though I've gotten citizenship when I was there, there's no social services in place for the people. So in turn, like it just makes it harder to work together. It makes it harder to nation build because of the corruption, it's created a culture of distrust and dishonesty. Compared to 20 years ago when Rawlings was president, when he first stepped down, Ghana it was a lot easier to navigate. People were more honest. And even a lot of Africans themselves say democracy doesn't work for them. They need dictatorship. I feel like they need more of a Marxist system. Capitalism doesn't work for the United States. It sure as hell don't work for Africa. And the problem is Nkrumah had a vision where he was going to implement a social system in place, but then he had Ghanaians under him who betrayed him at the time that Ghana was signing the independence from the British. So he never got to implement the social system he had a vision of, which is similar to what European countries and Canada has, but using the resources in Africa as a means to generate taxes. And then those taxes would then go back into reduced education, reduced healthcare. As it stands up now, most Africans on the continent pay just about for everything out of their wages. 50% of their income goes towards food, even though food goes right in their backyard. But their crazy governments would rather have the Chinese come in and import these GMO foods, even though they have farmers in the northern region. And the sad part about it is Nkrumah wanted to implement a refrigeration system, but they throw out all these tomatoes in the northern region that the farmers can use to make money off of. And this is part of Nkrumah's dream, like to take the resources Africa has and generate tax revenue from that. But because his own people betrayed him, he couldn't implement that, and he was forced into exile before he can even come back to Ghana. He came back to Ghana, he died from prostate cancer. So that not only would have worked for Ghana, it would have worked for the whole of Africa. So, you know, to me, the European Union, the African Union, they're a joke. They're just a bunch of trolls for the European Union. Since Gaddafi died, there really is no European Union. Gaddafi also had a vision for Africa to transfer African currency into gold, which is what they're doing now, you know? So it's just, I don't know, a revolution is going to have to happen to get Africa back to normal, like to get it to a certain point. Like all the house Negroes just have to die. I mean, I'm just being real. Because from what I've seen in Ghana, it's just the same people who sold us into slavery are the same people who are selling Africa back to the Chinese. And a lot of them are in political positions. And a lot of them, the same rules that they make for others, they break themselves. So there's so much corruption going on. It's just sad. But the good thing I liked about being in Ghana is that I got to work for a special needs school. And the sad part about that was when the pandemic happened, a lot of schools were forced to stay. Like some students are just now going back to school after 10 months, almost a whole school year they lost. And that also has to do back with the government. They like even up to 2021 in the northern region, you have kids going to school under trees. And the problem is corruption breeds poverty. There's no reason why Africans should live in poverty. Arabs have oil and Dubai don't even have oil. And look at Dubai 50 years later compared to before. Whereas Ghana has, they have oil, they have gold, they have even quartz, timber, like what you use to make watches. They have rose quartz that literally comes from the cement. They have so many resources in the continent now, but they're not using them to their maximum. And then the other issue is you have all the people who have the skills don't come back home because when they do try to come back home, the government tries to bribe them. Their own people don't support them because they're jealous that they didn't get to travel abroad. So it's this vicious cycle. So they get frustrated and they end up just staying back in the countries that, they're dual citizenship country like Europe or America or Canada, or even some are here in Dubai. They don't want to deal with their own people. So it's just, I don't know what has to happen, and especially in West Africa, because West Africa, I feel like has had a greater amount of mental damage and mental slavery from colonialism than East Africa.
I see, yeah. I mean, that's very, very interesting perspectives you have. I've been to Ghana 3 times, and I traveled out to some of East Africa as well. But yeah, I mean, I really agree with what you're saying. They have so much potential, but like you said, through leadership and corruption, it's been very, very hindered.
Like Nigeria, for example, they have so many engineers and so many Nigerian, like some of the world's richest Africans are Nigerian. But the corruption, and then Nigeria has all these issues with tribalism and ethnic division, because Nigeria has at least 150 ethnic groups, and most of those groups were not together before colonialism. So it's up to the leaders and the people to say, to hell with tribalism. We're going to work together economically. But until the people are ready to actually do that, without all the other stuff that comes with whatever's going on, then it's going to continue. Agree. My son's half Ghanaian. He wanted to be there, but because of the cyber hacking and all of these things, he couldn't do some of the things he wants to do online. He's going into artificial intelligence. But it was difficult for him to do certain things because he couldn't access certain websites because of cybersecurity issues.
So is he in Dubai with you now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, what's next for you? Are you considering are you content with being in Dubai, or are you trying to pursue to maybe go to another country, another school, or what?
I'm hoping to start my own virtual learning company. I'm working on that now with another brother. And I'm working on doing some other things. I hope to make UAE my base if I can afford to continue to stay here. I would like if I can eventually be a freelancer and work for myself. I like it here because it's safe. I can do most of the things I want to do in America, and it's close to so many other countries I would like to eventually visit. My son's studying Japanese. I would like to eventually take him to see Japan and Singapore because he is going into artificial intelligence. So I want him to see how 10% of their workforce is AI. So I want him to see that. And I just like being on this part of the world because it's peaceful. Like I do miss the States. One thing I do miss is my African-American Muslim community. I miss a lot of the things about my community and things like that. And there's some things I do miss about America, but I don't miss like the drama and the racism and the gunshots. I don't miss all that. I don't miss all of those. I just feel like America, just when it comes to racism and all of these things, it's just too much. So, and I like the fact my son can relax here and be a young Black male, not worried about the cops bothering him. He can, he's very productive here. He's made friends from different parts of the world. He looks at life completely different because he's been raised off and on overseas.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming on the show and providing us with valuable perspective and insight to your teaching career in Dubai and Africa and Ghana. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you again. And well, God
thank you
bless
for
you
having
and
me.
be safe. Yeah.